Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is R. Indira and I was formerly Professor of Sociology at the University of Mysore and paper coordinator for the course Education and Society. The module that will form the basis for my presentation today is Minorities and the Educational Discourse. This module is written by Dr. Nisha Jolly Nelson, Assistant Professor of Sociology at the Loyola College, Thiruvananthapuram. Minority is a word that is generally understood in terms of numbers. But in sociology, it refers to groups who are not only smaller in numbers compared to majority groups in every society, but there is also a power dimension, deprival of opportunities, and the struggle to maintain their cultural integrities while integrating with the larger social groups. Minorities have certain issues relating to the pursuit of education in the respective societies where they live. It may be the medium of instruction, or it may be the uniqueness of their culture that may or may not find a place in the curriculum. So in this module, we discuss issues relating to the education of minorities. In India, we can primarily distinguish two types of minorities, these being the religious minorities and the linguistic minorities. As the names itself suggests, religious minorities are those who are in smaller proportions compared to the majority religion in the country. And linguistic minorities are those who do not speak the language spoken by the majority of the people in that region. But the Constitution of India, with a commitment to maintain secularism and recognize the rights of every citizen to maintain his or her religion, culture, and all those aspects that are unique to one's life, has created several special provisions for protecting the educational interests of minorities. So as we proceed through our presentation, we shall discuss these issues. The attributes of a minority group have to be seen in a relative perspective. It is generally identified as a group that is quantitatively weak, non-dominant and underprivileged in global terms. Since people, communities or groups differ in their qualitative and quantitative characteristics as well, there is always a possible certainty of one being considered more powerful and the other with lesser or no power by way of comparison. The existence of majority and minority groups is the outcome of differential treatment which these groups experience. One group enjoys all or most of the privileges, whereas the other enjoys a few or is deprived of these privileges. This differential treatment makes one feel that he or she is a member of either a privileged or an underprivileged group. In every country, there are groups of people loosely or closely associated for some specific reason or purpose with identities such as racial, linguistic, cultural, religious, political, economic, etc., or a combination of these. The issues affecting the lives of minorities in India are very unique. At the time of the British conquest of India, Muslims were ruling the subcontinent and they were forced out of power by the British. This was followed by the division of Indian subcontinent, better known as partition, on religious grounds. According to the Constitution of India, two types of minorities are discernible in this country, they being religious minorities and linguistic minorities. According to the Constitution of India, two types of minorities are discernible in the country, they being religious minorities and linguistic minorities. In India, the following communities are identified as religious minorities, these being Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Zoroastrians or Parsis, and Jains. As per the 2011 census, these religious minorities constitute about 20% of the total population of the country, numbering about 24.16 crores. The table here gives you the religion-wise breakup of minority population in India as per the 2011 census. India, which is known for the sheer diversities that characterize its population, has been home to many religious groups spread over different regions. There are also many problems confronting the minority groups which have to be understood from multiple dimensions. A brief note on three major groups falling under the category of religious minorities is given below. The Muslims in India constitute the largest religious minority in the country. Though a minority in its numerical strength, it constitutes the second largest Muslim population in the world, next only to Indonesia. Muslims are the most backward community with the lowest employment rate. With such a vulnerable economic status, there was hardly any incentive for a modern secular education among large sections of the Muslim population. The Christians are the second largest and oldest religious minority in the country. They are largely spread over South India, particularly in Kerala. Consistent with the social philosophy of their religion, the Christians in India are well represented in the social welfare activities of the country, with particular concern for the service of the underprivileged. Their role in the sphere of health and education is well recognized. Sikhism is another important religion in India which is spread in different parts of the country. The Sikhs have developed a very strong subnational identity, carrying with them the vital elements of the Punjabi culture. The Sikhs are excellent cultivators in rural areas. They have played a very significant role in ushering green revolution in the country. Constitutional provisions for minorities in India. The Constitution of India has provided minority groups with some safeguards. Article 30 of the Indian Constitution states that the minorities have rights to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. This includes the right to choose the medium of instruction, curricula, and the subject to be taught. Minorities can impart instruction to their children in their own languages. The National Commission for Minorities undertakes review of the implementation of the policies formulated by the union and state governments with regard to minorities. It looks into specific complaints regarding deprivation of rights and safeguards of minorities and conducts research and analysis on the question of avoidance of discrimination against the minorities. The provisions of Article 30 vis-à-vis education are as follows. All minorities, whether based on religion or language, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. The state shall not, in granting aid to educational institutions, discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. The provisions give minorities a certain degree of religious and educational autonomy. The Constitution does not, however, specify or indicate either the religious denominations or the minorities that come under these provisions, nor did any legislative enactment do so until 1992. Article 26 of the Constitution recognizes the right of every religious denomination to manage its own affairs and establish religious and charitable institutions. Constitutional debates on minority issues. Constitutional debates about minorities were marked by discussions regarding withdrawal of political safeguards for religious minorities during the making of the Indian Constitution. In the drafts and deliberations regarding the Constitution, there were provisions of reservation in legislatures, employment, government, and cabinet. This was done in order to protect and preserve the interests of minority groups. However, in the final draft, the minorities were excluded from all political safeguards. Such a radical change could be explained in the context of the partition of the country into two nations, one of Muslim majority and the other of the Hindu majority. While the other minorities were seen to be numerically too small in numbers to be paid any attention. During the debate in the Constituent Assembly, backwardness of a group was given primacy over distinct cultural identity a legitimate ground for group preference in the political arena. Speeches in the Constituent Assembly involved several types of arguments ranging from national unity, secularism, democracy, and equality in opposition to minority safeguards. Educational status of the minorities. In this section, we look at different minorities in relation to their educational status. It must be stated at the outset that very little macro level data are available on the educational situation among any religious minority in India. But there is inequality in the level of literacy of different groups, consequent upon diverse socio-cultural and economic status, which causes human group disparities. The literacy rate of the largest religious minority, the Indian Muslims, as per the census of 2011, is 59.1%. In the case of higher education, gross enrollment ratio among the Muslims is 11.3 as per the NSSO data of 66th round 2009-10. This is the lowest among all the minority communities in India. The ratio of GR of 6 is 23.1, Christians 31.3, Jains 54.6 and Buddhists 17.9. Jains have the highest total literacy rate of 94.1%, followed by Christians with 80.3%. Buddhists with 72.7% are in the third position. Status of education among the Muslims. Going by the Sachar Committee report, Muslims had only made minimal use of educational opportunities in the country. Their enrollment and retention rates at the primary and secondary levels were lower than that of the national average. Sufficient numbers of educational institutions were not available for Muslims across the country. Equal educational opportunity was also not available to all sections of Muslims. Available data reveal that at high school and higher levels, the Muslims are at least 3 to 4 times behind other communities. The enrollment of Muslim children in primary schools is generally poor, even in those areas where the Muslims constitute a majority. The enrollment of Muslim girls is especially extremely low. Moreover, the dropout rate is significantly higher for Muslim students as compared to their non-Muslim counterparts. It's often argued that only a small proportion of the Muslim population looks forward to the charmed realm of professions or government employment through higher education. Most of their institutions are lacking in infrastructural and instructional facilities. Growth in numbers of their educational institutions has not been accompanied by an improvement in the delivery of quality education. Madrasa education is an essential part of the education of Muslims. They provided religious as well as non-religious education in the fields of science, philosophy and history. Their authority as educational institutions suffered a setback with the colonization of India by the British. Today, madrasas are religious Islamic educational institutions established to impart Quranic education to its pupils. Its purpose is to produce scholars who can interpret Islam in relation to demands of the contemporary needs. Thus, the image of the madrasa as primarily an institution that imparts religious education alone and is open to only Muslims is gaining ground more rapidly in recent times. However, the modernization of madrasas that cater only to around 3% of Muslim school-going children is not likely to have any perceptible impact on the majority of Muslim children of school-going age because they don't go to the madrasas. The National Institute of Open Learning has been mandated to open a minority cell to aid minority communities to gain access to opening schooling methods and resources. It's also sought to achieve uniformity in madrasas throughout the country via state madrasa boards and a central board to oversee overall administration. A large number of children from the Muslim community have been involuntarily excluded from mainstream education on account of their economic, social and cultural status. Concerted efforts are needed to promote access for such children to schooling and other educational resources. Minorities in general and Muslims in particular need to strive hard to harness every source that could lead them to quality education, quality growth, and quality development. Given the importance of a knowledge economy, the establishment of educational institutions of global standards ought to become the priority for ushering in an inclusive process of development for minority communities. Internationalism in higher education needs to be promoted. The development of self-respect, a strong sense of ethics, and interfaith understanding through education must be the most important mission of educational institutions. Reasons for educational backwardness of Indian Muslims. There are a variety of explanations offered for the educational backwardness of the Indian Muslims. Kamath has summarized these under three main heads. According to him, some writers trace it to the religious traditionality and backwardness of those professing Islam. Some others explain in terms of the partition of India and the acute psychological identity it created for Indian Muslims, and the deliberate neglect and discrimination against Muslims by the larger society, which professes to be secular but is in fact discriminatory, whether in the field of education or employment. Lack of an adequate number of schools and infrastructural facilities in the Muslim-dominated areas was a major cause of educational backwardness of this community. Status of education among Christians. The Christians offer a study in contrast to the Muslims with regard to education. Among the different activities that Christian missionaries carried out, education was certainly the foremost. They established, generally as an extension of the church, schools and colleges over the length and breadth of the country, many of which rank among the best even today. Like the Muslims, the Christians did not have any religious or cultural inhibitions in accepting Western education. A large number of Christian boys and girls received education in the mission institutions. Thus, Christians too were able to move ahead in the sphere of education and thereby take advantage of the emerging economic opportunities in modern India. Christians too were able to move ahead in the sphere of education and thereby take advantage of the emerging economic opportunities in modern India. Linguistic minorities. Language is one of the most debated topics in Indian education. The Constitution of India recognizes 22 languages as languages of the nation and accords them a place in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. India's linguistic diversity can be attributed to the different waves of invasion and colonization, free migrations within and between the different states and union territories, political influences leading to the linguistic reorganization of states following India's independence, and presence of different ethnic and religious minorities distributed throughout India. Politically, India is divided into 29 linguistically organized states and 7 union territories. The linguistic scene in India is very complex. In every region or state, in addition to the majority regional language, the linguistic situation is complicated by the presence of several minority languages as well as caste and class dialects, some lacking recognized scripts. The term linguistic minority has been defined differently at different places and is viewed as a relative or contextual term that presupposes the term majority, which is assumed to be all-powerful and dominant. Linguistic minorities are speakers of minority languages. Srivastava provides a new approach towards defining majority-minority languages based on two principles, quantum and power, wherein the linguistic minorities are those that lack both quantum and power, and majority as having them. According to Pandri Pandey, minority languages are typically those which carry relatively less or marginal functional load and functional transparency. Functional load is used as a diagnostic tool to predict maintenance or attrition of languages. Functional transparency refers to the autonomy and control that the language has in a particular domain. Pandari Pandey proposes that for understanding the linguistic minorities, a different framework needs to be formulated, which will take into account the multilingual profile of India, the functional distribution of languages across domains, the size of the speech community, and the notion of dominance. Minority languages can be divided into three groups. A. Those which have the minority status in their native state. B. Those which are reduced to minority status in their non-native states. And C. Languages which do not have a native state but are distributed across states. This framework clearly shows that a language acquires minority status when its functional load is reduced in a non-native state where the dominant language of that state is different and used in many public domains, while it continues to enjoy the status of a dominant language in its native state. So in conclusion, it can be said that minority languages can be defined on the basis of their low prestige, which is the result of their low functional load in the public domain. External factors such as language policies and modernization, as well as internal factors such as attitudes of speakers, contribute to the enhancement or retardation of minority languages. The Indian Constitution adopted several safeguards to protect linguistic minorities in the country. Articles 350A and 350B were adopted in addition to the Articles 29(1), 30, 347 and 350 in order to safeguard the interests of minorities. Various educational provisions for the minorities in India. The 7 target-specific programs of the Ministry of Human Resources Development covered under the PM's new 15-point program for the welfare of minorities are Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, which includes construction of new buildings in minority-concentrated districts, opening of new schools in MCDs, construction of additional classrooms, sanctioning of teaching posts, sanctioning of Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. Scheme for providing quality education in madrasas, infrastructure development of aided or unaided minority institutes, greater resources for teaching Urdu, submission on politics, model degree colleges in educationally backward districts, and women's hostels in MCDs. National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions. The National Commission for Minority Educational Institutions has been established by an Act of Parliament with the key objective of ensuring that the true spirit of the educational rights enshrined in Article 31 of the Constitution is made available to the members of notified religious minority communities, including the Muslims. The Ministry of Human Resource Development has the following 2 educational schemes exclusively for the minorities. These are the scheme for providing quality education in madrasas and infrastructure development of aided or unaided minority institutes, Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas and Navodaya Jawahar Vidyalayas scheme. Besides, there is also a teacher education support program. We have discussed in the presentation some of the major issues that are confronted in the educational rights and privileges of minority groups in this society. Across the world, in each society, there are groups identified as minorities based on religion, culture, language, and a few other factors. But the United Nations, as well as all countries in this world, are committed to protecting the rights of minority groups and give them equal opportunities in education along with other groups in that country. So this module, which has raised some very fundamental questions about educational issues pertaining to minorities, it's hoped will set you thinking about this issue